Thanks for tuning in, guys. My name's Dr. Dan and we're here with Jordan. Jordan's here to talk about, two things we're going to cover tonight. The first thing we're going to talk about is getting through the most difficult times we've ever experienced in our lives. We're also going to talk about things we can use in our day-to-day lives to help us achieve our deepest, wildest goals and dreams. So thanks for joining us, Jordan. I know a bit about you, Jordan, but for the viewers that are watching, can you tell them a bit about who you are, where you come from, and something about yourself?
Yeah, certainly. I'm a doctor by profession, although I'd like to think that doesn't define who I am. I come from a rural area in eastern Victoria and grew up and spent most of my life there prior to going off to university in Melbourne. I did an undergraduate degree in biomedical science and then studied graduate entry medicine with Monash. At the start of med school, I started with the sponsorship of the Royal Australian Air Force, and subsequently now I'm working as an aviation medical officer in Adelaide for them. So that's really a bit of an idea about my professional life. Personally, and I think more importantly, I have a wonderful family with 2 young children. I've got a son and a daughter, with 5 and 3, and a beautiful wife who I love very much. And they bring all the meaning behind why the professional life is important. Because I think without that aspect, it would lose a lot of meaning for me. In my spare time, I like to spend it with my family. Occasionally, when I get the opportunity, I don't mind picking up a guitar and having a bit of a play as well.
Jordan, who would you say is one of the most influential people in your life and why?
Yeah, okay, that's a challenging one, and I might take a bit of liberty there in answering the question, and probably not give a clear-cut answer. I think there's a couple of different people in my life, both people that I know and those that I don't know, that have been significantly influential along my journey. So I'd have to say certainly that my parents are naturally the most influential people in my life, and I think whether people realise it or not, it would be very true for most people. I know from my profession as a general practitioner and studying public health, in particular the social determinants of health, how important childhood is and the key role that parents play in that process. So I think mum and dad, to start off with, for me, were very influential, but they never pushed me in a direction. I grew up, my dad as a carpenter by trade, my mum worked as a public servant, and I had a very happy and stable childhood. And they just allowed me to pick and choose what I wanted and supported me in achieving the goals that I'd set for myself, rather than setting any expectations for me, which I think was really great. My wife Sarah has certainly been a very influential figure in my life, and as you know, Dan, Sarah and I have been together for more than half my life now. We met when we were in high school, and she's certainly been very important in shaping who I am. Leading a little bit more professionally, I'd probably say that when I was 13, I joined the Australian Air Force Cadets, which is where I first got exposure to a youth development organisation, and I was the beneficiary of it in that case. And one of the adult staff members there, Gilbert Clarence, was a particular influential person for me, and continues to be in my life through his demonstration of leadership, the mentoring that he's provided me. So that link between mentor and mentee, however formal that might be, or informal, is really influential, and it certainly set me on a path not only to a career in the Air Force, but also gave me the skills that I needed to be able to be a good communicator, leader, team player, and all those non-technical, non-clinical skills that make someone a good doctor. I think really founded through that relationship and the exposure to through that organisation that I was part of. And it gave me a really good opportunity to see the difference that, at a young age, as a teenager, the difference it made in my life and other young people's lives. So I was really fortunate that when I was studying medicine, I was actually able to go back to the organisation, work as a mentor and an adult staff member, and start giving back. So I've got a reasonable amount of experience in youth development and mentoring. And that's why I was so excited to come along here, Dan, to get involved, and so impressed and proud of what you're doing here. I think it's great. If you wanted to get a little bit more abstract about the question and ask, who's been the most influential person for me, I think to be a bit obscure, I'd probably say Ira Glass is someone that's been really influential for me.
Who's Ira? Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is, I'm sorry.
I'll tell the story. So it was a bit over 20 years ago now, Ira Glass started a radio show in Chicago. It's a weekly radio show that runs for an hour, and essentially it formed the blueprint of the modern podcast. So the podcast now, and it continues as a radio show as well, is called This American Life. And he is a master of storytelling and has really revolutionised the podcast space. So I've listened to a lot of that. It's given me a lot of opportunity to broaden my worldview, and also I feel he's probably got a lot to do with the popularity of podcasts in general. So whether it's listening to Dan Carlin's hardcore history and learning about things from our past that can inform our future, or whether it's listening to medical podcasts, I think a lot of that stems from his storytelling. So I think I'd probably say he's someone who's been pretty influential, because every time I'm in the car, rather than the waste of the time, I like to put on a podcast and learn something, whether it's a cool story or whether it's something a little bit more relevant to my profession. It's always a great way of spending that time.
Do you find yourself, when you've got downtime, do you find yourself always trying to learn new things? Is that what you like to do in your spare time? Because some people don't.
Yeah. Look, I love sitting with my wife at the end of the day and watching an hour of Netflix. It doesn't happen every day, but just being able to relax and have some mental space, because the rest of my day is usually filled with complex cases and planning different aspects of my work, learning, in my downtime quite often I find myself bringing work home or studying. So getting a little bit of time just to relax, I think, is really important. It doesn't have to be just sitting there and vegging out, something just not related to my day-to-day work. So I love learning new things when I'm playing guitar, for example. So I think always striving to learn and be a better person and understand more about the world in which we live and the people around us is absolutely vital to success. But at the same time, you've got to give yourself some love as well and ensure that you're not going to burn out along the way, because that balance is really important and sometimes it's pretty hard to achieve.
So when you're in the car and you sometimes listen to a podcast, you're obviously, from what you said, you're listening to things where it's stimulating, it's educating, might be a bit of storytelling, but it's not dramatized and it's not fictional. But when you get home to watch Netflix, what are the types of things that you find yourself watching? Are they educational as well, or are they more just fictional, just to relax? Or
yeah, look, quite often we'll get stuck into a series. Some of our favourites have been Stranger Things, House of Cards, and The Crown. And I guess it just is that opportunity just to to relax, and good storytelling, fictional in most cases. Some nights we decide we'll sit down and listen to TED Talks instead, which are great, bring a really rich worldview that sometimes is contrary to our own and challenges our way of thinking. So we mix it up a bit depending on how we're feeling. I'd say occasionally there's some good fiction. It's good because it tends to, I think, get the imagination going as well, and spurs that creative thinking.
Yeah. Well, I've for the viewers that don't know, I've actually spent a lot of time with Jordan in the past. Jordan, as you're aware, there's some students that, whether it's they've brought it on themselves or there's pressure from their parents, that they need to be studying all the time. You obviously seem to be continue to always strike a really good balance, and I mean your achievements, and I remember your grades and stuff like that have always been exceptional. What would you have to say to someone who feels they have to, who wants to achieve great things? Do they have to study all the time, or people that are getting that kind of pressure from their parents? What would you say to someone in that kind of position?
Yeah, look, no matter how talented you are as an individual, you have to work hard. And I think if you're not doing that, you're not living up to your potential, even if that happens to be better than everyone else, just because of who you are and your natural abilities, and you're coasting through, you're still not being as great as you can be. So I think that determination, tenacity to push through and resist the temptation to just go and spend time doing other things, especially in those key moments in life. So I'm talking like Year 12 university exam periods, the first couple of months at a new job, for example. Maybe if you've got a startup or a new business idea, you've got to put that time and effort into it. But I think I alluded before that with that there's a significant risk of burnout. So even if it's just once a week, if you've got a ritual that allows you to get away from that and just do something that you enjoy and feel natural about, that's important. So a couple of recommendations I'd have, this is very much the general practitioner coming through here, would be to exercise at least 5 times a week, 30-minute sessions, and something that's at least moderate intensity. Don't go for a stroll. Do something that's going to get the heart rate up. It's going to make you feel great. It's going to give you clarity of mind, and it's going to improve your productivity. Additionally, another way of stepping away from that study space but still being productive, doing something that's good for you, is meditation. And there's plenty of apps out there that offer really high quality, evidence-based platforms to do that, and Smiling Minds is one that I'd recommend. It's just ace. It's free, and some of my colleagues run workshops for people within the Australian Defence Force, so they're routinely engaging in group meditation sessions because we just know it's so effective, and it's a performance enhancer.
Do you use social media? If so, what platforms are you using?
Yeah, this is an interesting question. I do. I use Facebook and Snapchat, and I've been quite intentional in avoiding further use. So I signed up 11 years ago, or however long it was, that Facebook started to take off across Australia, and it naturally became a very big part of my connectivity with other people. And in many cases, especially people from overseas or people that I've studied with and we now live interstate, it's an excellent way to stay in contact. So I think there's a lot of negative energy out there, especially from older generations, towards the use of social media. And sense that it detracts from our ability to connect with the people actually physically around us. And partly that's true, but I think it's putting it in a bad light. I think there's a lot of strong power in social media, and that ability to be connected with other people can be really important when it's used well. And that's the caveat there, and that's why I haven't started using Instagram or some of the other platforms. I do have a Twitter account, but very rarely use it. It's just a university is something that I had to get it for. So, I guess some key messages are not to let it define you, not to let it get in the way of your relationships with the people in front of you. So, sitting on the couch at home with your girlfriend and both sitting on social media instead of interacting, or doing that at dinner with friends, is probably not ideal. And I identified some patterns a couple of years ago that I didn't like. I was finding I would get baited by trolls pretty easily. I was using Facebook as a source of news, following SBS News, which I expected to have a fairly balanced view, but they would have a fairly nice article about something good that had happened in the world, and then the trolling would happen in the comments. I found myself just getting annoyed by it, so I removed all aspect of news in Facebook, and I use normal news sources like ABC, SBS, that are known to be centre rather than biased, and I don't have to read comments from people in public, which makes it a lot better. At the same time, I found that I was doing those negative things where I was spending a lot of time looking at my phone. When I visit my grandparents, I just have this habit of picking up my phone if there's a pause in conversation rather than allowing a natural pause and for the topic to move on. So I buried the Facebook app away in subfolders on my phone and make a conscious effort to use it less, and just have a scroll through every now and then and allow it to keep me in contact with people and see the kind of things they're doing. Snapchat I ended up getting because a lot of my mates at work and study use it, and it's a pretty cool way to stay in individual contact with people. And I don't use it that much, but enjoy its use, and I'm not finding that it's having any negative impacts on my life at the moment.
It's some fantastic advice there. It sounds like you're really utilising it, utilising the positive aspects about it, and I really like that. What are some of the biggest struggles, Jordan, in life, or that's happened in your life? However you'd like to answer that.
Yeah, so it's a deep question, but I'll give it a crack at answering fairly honestly. I assume there's going to be a follow-up question, something about how I've managed to work through those, or do you want me to answer that together?
Yeah, sure. Yep. Yeah, if you can answer that together, for sure.
All right. So I guess the theme of a lot of my struggles beyond the day-to-day, being tired and having kids wake you up in the middle of the night and feeling constantly sleep-deprived as a parent, or frustrated occasionally at work, or complex patients and things like that, which I actually really enjoy. The theme of the challenges I've faced are probably a disconnect between my goals and what's actually happening. So put that in context for you, I think the first time that really happened for me was when I was in year 12. I was working bloody hard. So 4 to 6 hours of study every single night, working most of the weekend, and very little downtime. And I wanted to be a doctor, and I wanted to be in the Air Force. And then all of a sudden the UMAT results came out, and I was quite shocked that it was clear immediately that I wasn't going to get into med school straight up. And it wasn't too bad because I was able just to bury my head in year 12 work and focus, but there was a strong sense of despair, and challenge to the way I viewed the world and the way I viewed things would be in the future. So I guess I decided to be productive. Had a couple of days where it wasn't great.
Yeah.
And then put my mind to it. I'm like, right, here's the plan. I'm going to study biomedical science. I'm going to get into med school. I'm going to have great grades. And the GAMSAT's a whole different beast. And that's what happened. So I still went on and studied medicine. Biomedical science gave me the great opportunity to have a really good undergraduate experience. I learned a lot. I had a broad range of interests academically there and met a lot of awesome people, which gave me a lot of opportunity that I don't think a direct med school experience would have. So in hindsight, it seems like what happened suited me a lot better, even though it was really challenging information to process at the time, because it felt like it was never going to happen for a moment there. And then fast forwarding through after med school, internship, residency, military training, coming here to Adelaide, I've always had very clear views of what my life would look like in 5-10 years' time. It changed, it's fairly fluid, but having that plan was very important for my motivation and drive to work hard and do well, and certainly helped me get through that stress, because I'm like, here's the end product, this is why I'm doing it. And when I started med school, I thought, after Air Force, I want to be a neurosurgeon, and then it changed to lots of different things. Work with plastic surgeons and see the finesse of their work and think, I want to be a plastic surgeon, and then realise I actually don't really want to be a surgeon at all. Maybe obstetrics and gynecology, because you get to do some surgery, but there's a lot of clinical work, and then realise that wasn't a great work-life balance, and so it changes. Maybe anaesthetics would be really good. Coming over here, it got to the point where I realised that I can't have a view, out 5 or 10 years and have a definite plan. This is what my life's going to look like, because the Air Force just doesn't offer that. There's too much variability. The deployments, the opportunities on the other side, the prospects of staying in the military long term versus opportunities on the outside, and also having to consider a young family and the impacts it may be having on them. All meant that important 5 to 10 year view and serious goal setting crumbled away, and I found that really difficult to process, because that was my motivation, and worldview kind of altered. So it took a lot of time, and it never impacted my ability to work or function at a high level and continue studying. But it's personally that it's kind of a sentinel moment for me, where I realised that I had to be comfortable with a fluid plan that has 5 different possibilities of what it might look like down the track. And that, I think, has been a really important journey for me. But I still advocate that going through and developing plans and goals and what you want your life to look like is really, really important. But you need to be flexible and fluid, because sometimes amazing opportunities come up that you just didn't expect to happen, and that will take you off in a different direction. And sometimes doors close as well. It means that that's just not going to be a possibility. It doesn't mean it's going to be a bad thing. It just means something else great will happen down the track in a different way. So other than acknowledging that and understanding, so doing some soul searching and thinking about the way I think, introspection, other than that kind of processing, for me some really important things are meditation, exercise, spending time with my family and loved ones and speaking to them. Speaking to my mentor is really important, and I do that frequently, and I have a number of different mentors still, and I advocate that throughout your life you should maintain that, that should be a central part of challenges and goals and success for you. And then finally, and I don't want to sound like a cliche evangelist, but I go to church. And for me, that's a really important, this won't be any surprise to you, Dan, for me, that's a really important way for me to cope with hard times and also celebrate really good times as well. And is a big feature of my day-to-day life.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though you're still only young, what would you say is your greatest accomplishment so far? Would it be what you've just spoken about, overcoming those difficult times, or is there anything else that you think is also a fantastic accomplishment?
Yeah. I think certainly my young family is my greatest accomplishment. When I started med school, in the very first week and then the very last week of med school, we had Ranjana Srivastava, who's a physician, oncologist and author, come and speak to us. And she challenged us on both occasions to be able to define who we are. So in response to the question, who are you, without mentioning that you're a doctor. And I think whatever profession that we can apply it to, in this case, speaking more broadly, I think it's really important to be able to answer that question of who you are. And I know at the very start I did mention that I was a doctor as the first thing, because I felt in this context it gives me a little bit more credibility of why people might want to listen to what I'm saying. But I agree, it's really important. So yes, I come to my general practice fellowship at the moment, Master of Public Health, studying good marks, all those kind of things, and overcoming adversity. I think my greatest achievement is my family, my wife and children, and their well-being and the way they lift me up. It's a great achievement. And I think outside of that, I think probably transitioning from when I was a teenager to how I am now, in understanding that success isn't about what kind of car you drive, or how much money you have, or whether you're wearing a Rolex. Those things are nice, and those are things that you can quite well strive for. But I think understanding your responsibility to make the world a better place for other people, and I think you're doing that, Dan, right now by taking active interest in mentoring and motivational speaking and helping develop other people around you. I think people who volunteer with aid agency, people who work with homeless, people who work in the public hospital system, or mental health or addiction services, helping the most vulnerable people in society, or just helping the people who live around you to be better people, is such an important element of success and being a good human being. I'd probably say that transition and understanding is probably a great achievement for me as well, and it's certainly transformed my worldview, my ideas of success, and what my goals are in the future.
What is your favourite thing about yourself?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I would say my tenacity, or a drive for hard work. And I know we talked about that balance, but I came from a family where my parents supported me. They probably would have been a bit upset if I wanted to be on the dole and not work. But they were highly supportive of whatever my motivations were. So I wasn't pushed at any point. And as I said, I've come to a couple of crossroads where I could have given up or taken an easy way out. But I keep on putting one foot in front of the other, and sometimes that's all you can do when it seems tough or long, especially you get to the start of a 4-year degree, or even when I started biomedical science, I thought this is the path to med school. So at the start of that 7-year process that really is more like 11 or 12 years by the time you get a fellowship at the other end, absolute minimum, probably longer for most people. It's daunting, and really all you can do is put one foot in front of the other.
Well, you did that, didn't you? You did that when you were in a state of despair from not getting into med school. I mean, I was the same.
Yeah.
It's only normal. It's only understandable and human to want to throw in the towel and just say, "Oh, I'm just going to go off and do something easy." But you really have been tenacious. You didn't take no for an answer, and you found a way to do it, and you were tenacious. So I mean, you can, from what you've told us tonight, you've certainly demonstrated that in what you've done.
Yeah, cheers, mate. And I think you would agree. Just coming to your point there, that where you look at your life now compared to what it might have been like, if things had have gone differently and you didn't have those challenges, you wouldn't change it for the world at the moment. You're exactly where you want to be, and sometimes that journey isn't what you expect, but you end up in a place that's great and better than you could have imagined in the first place, and that hard work is what's got you there.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good message to those listening that, when one door closes, another one opens, and I think you need to be optimistic and, sometimes tenacious enough and persistent enough to, really see those other doors opening. And there's, for every hardship that we encounter in our lives, there's always positives that we can draw from it. And it's not always easy to see it at the time, but when you push through those tough times, life can actually become brighter than you ever imagined. It's hard to see that when you're young, because you haven't really gone through as many tough times as what you do as the years go on.
Yeah, and that's where mentorship becomes so important, because you're actually getting that perspective from someone who has walked the road before you.
Yeah.
And getting that perspective from lots of different people, whether it be your parents or your parents aren't particularly good at that aspect of parenthood, then getting in contact with someone that's a professional mentor or volunteers, someone that works in the field that you want to, just absolutely ace to get you through that.
Yeah. Jordan, what is something you're certain you'll never experience, and why?
That's an interesting question. There's probably a lot of things I'm fairly certain I won't experience. I would hazard to rule things out though, because you never know where life's going to take you. I am fairly confident that I won't ever experience financial hardship now. So as part of my planning for the future, I've set up a job and career that I enjoy, and that also means that my family and I are well provided for and will be into the future. So I'm pretty much certain that I'll be all right and comfortable and get to enjoy the things I really love, like traveling and fine dining, getting to go out and do cool things with my kids, and enjoy a good work-life balance and quality of life without having that stress of worrying about money. outside of that, I'm fairly certain I'll never experience a point where I just give up. I think that's probably a good answer. I'm certain I'll never experience despair so strong that I just throw in the towel.
Yeah.
With whatever challenges I'm faced within life.
Well, I mean, you've been through those, you've been through tough times, and you've pushed through it, and you know within yourself that at times when the world seems to be going so pear-shaped, and times that can be really discouraging, you've proven yourself, which at the time you probably hadn't been through something that difficult before, or you weren't sure and it was scary, and you probably drew upon mentors, and you were tenacious, and you put one foot in front of the other, and you just got on with it, and you're an adult about it, and at a time where you're still 18 years old, you did what adults do, and that's just to get on with it and get through those tough times. And from what you've told us, it's obviously given you a lot of confidence in yourself and in the future. You know that you've been through that, so you know that it's pattern, isn't it? It's pattern. I don't think you'd be a. I don't think you're used to quitting now. You've been winning now for so long, and overcoming hardships and adversities, that winning now is a pattern for you, and you're certain that you're going to execute on that when life throws you curveballs.
Yeah, it's not to say that it's not challenging still when it happens, but that's when you knuckle down and take stock of things, and keep cracking on, maybe with a slightly different tack than you had been doing previously.
Yeah. Jordan, who is one person you trust the most, and why?
That's an easy one. Easiest one on the list so far.
Apart from me.
My wife.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously apart from you then. My wife. So it's really important to have strong, trusting relationships. Obviously early in my life, that was my parents. For some people, that's not possible for whatever reason due to your relationship with your parents. But having someone that you can trust is so important. And whether that means you need to reach out to someone and find someone. I met my wife when I was still.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was just telling me my battery's running low.
Yeah.
So meeting my wife when I was 15 meant that I was much younger than most people. I certainly don't expect that that's a normal experience. But we've been together for 16 years now, and got married and have a family together. And she's the one person in the world that I trust more than anyone else. I still have trusting relationships with a lot of people, like previous mentors that I've mentioned, my family, my close friends, and having lots of people that you trust is great. But definitely above all others is my wife. That should be a feature of a good relationship, intimate relationship, and certainly feel it is reciprocal for us.
Well, Jordan, I just want to say thank you. Sincerely, I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man. You've got your family and you've got your demanding career that requires a lot from you. It's right now. It's a Sunday night. It's 8:30 p.m. And I just want to say, and I hope that someone's watched this and has gotten something out of it. I think there's a lot to take from this man. He's an incredibly inspirational being. He inspires a lot of people. He inspired a lot of people. Quite a few years ago now when we went to university, and it's just I can't thank you enough, and really appreciate your time, sincerely. Really do.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for taking the initiative. Thank you for asking me. I think it's a really big honour to feel that my experience may be able to help other people. And thanks to everyone who's listening as well. I hope that it's given some food for thought. You might not agree with everything I've said, you might not agree with any of it, but if it's challenged you to think a little bit more deeply, then I think it's been a very well use of our time, worthy use of our time.
Thanks so much, mate. You have a great evening, sleep well, enjoy your week, and I know you're going to have a great week, and give my best to your family, mate.
Cheers, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. Take care, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, mate. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, see you, mate. Bye.
See you, mate. Bye.